Hey! Now, I don't know if any of you guys can hear this, but, well, at least I'm trying to, make this audible or whatever. I don't know, I'm just recording this off a camera, but see this right here? This white folder contains essentially my childhood, pretty much. This here is my old Pokemon card binder from when I was a kid. I just found this recently, and given that I've recently kind of got back into collecting the cards, I thought I may as well show off the stuff in here. Just so much nostalgia for me here. This here's, basically my old binder that I kept all my cards in. Yeah, I was one of the few kids smart enough to actually put their cards in a binder back in those days. I didn't really have all that much spectacular, to be honest, but anyway, I made a kind of a... this is a weird thing I kind of drew just when I was a kid, as a cover page, whatever. You might be asking why Zapdos, Weezing, and Vileplume are on the cover. Well, those were the first 3 holos I ever got. Now... actually, sorry, I had to cut off for a bit because my cat almost got in the shot. Anyway, yeah. So those were the first 3 holos I ever got, so that's why they're on the front cover. And if you just look at the side here for a bit... those are drawings of various balls that I really have no idea what they were supposed to be back then. But anyway, let's open this up. So, stupid, let's just put those over there. There's a whole bunch of loose cards out in the front pocket here. I'll probably go through those later. Those are mostly stuff that I found later. Anyway, this first page here is just a few random things. These here are the E-cards from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. These aren't really part of my card collection, but I just keep them here just, for a place to store them. Now, these things, basically you could scan these cards into an e-reader, and they unlock special opponents for you to battle, I believe in the Battle Tower in, or it was either in the Battle Tower or in a house in Moss Deep City, one of them. I think that... oh no, wait a minute, that guy there, some of them also appear in the Battle Tower. Most of them are just in the house in Moss Deep City. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but they all contain a certain Pokemon, and it tells you the movesets of some of them and the like. I might demo a few of those on YouTube if I ever get the chance. Those cards are long out of print, so not everyone had a chance to actually battle these unique opponents. Not that you're really missing out on much, to be honest. A couple of random stuff, except this thing here is mostly the main highlight of this page here. This is the Pokemon First Movie promo Mewtwo. Now, I actually didn't get this from the movie screening. I only saw the movie a bit later when they stopped giving out the cards. But I believe I got these in a trade quite a while after, but I'm glad I finally got my hands on it because, yeah, I saw the movie but I didn't get the cards, so that was annoying. Anyway, actually time to get onto the collection proper. Of course I start with Fire, because Fire was pretty much my favourite type when I was a kid. Leading to my favourite evolution line when I was a kid. So here is, Base Set Charmander, Base Set Charmeleon, and here, yep, yes, I actually have one of these, Base Set Charizard. This is pretty much the pride and joy of my childhood collection. Unfortunately, it's not shadowless. At least I'm pretty sure it's not shadowless. If you look here, I'm pretty sure there's a shadow on the side here. I don't think that's shadowless, and it's not first edition. I pretty much, just on a side note, do not really have any first edition cards, except for the first edition Machamp, which doesn't count, because that's not rare at all. I have a feeling first edition had a very, very limited print run in Australia, because I hardly knew anybody when I was a kid with first edition cards. Like, I was collecting the cards. You see, the interesting thing was, as you can tell from this card right down here, let me just skip ahead, here's a Japanese card. I've got quite a lot of Japanese cards, and that's because back when I first started collecting, back when Pokemon was first really a big craze, you actually couldn't get Pokemon cards in English. You could only get them in Japanese, and people would just go to Japanese bookstores and buy packs of Japanese cards and actually get the Japanese ones. So yeah, people were collecting Pokemon cards since you could only get them in Japanese, and even then, when English first came out, you'd think that a lot of them would be first edition, but the only first edition card I remember seeing someone having when I was a kid was a first edition Execute. I think that was it. I don't think I've ever seen any actual real physical first edition copies. I have a feeling that Australia got screwed over once again. But again, here is Base Set Charizard. Now, I was lucky enough to actually get this for my birthday. My dad managed to actually pick this up for me. I've never asked him where he got it. He probably had to pay quite a bit for it, actually, but I find it best not to think about that. But anyway, base set Charizard, yeah, one of the most highly sought-after cards. Interestingly enough, if you look at this bit here, I'm not sure if you can actually see it, but this actually did come in a sleeve, so I think this one's actually been quite well preserved, luckily. I was really when I remembered that I had a base set Charizard recently, I was just desperately hoping that it had come in a sleeve, and it turns out it did, because, again, even though I put my cards pretty much straight into binders when I first got them back when I was a kid, I never really use sleeves, so a lot of these probably aren't in the best condition. Anyway, let's just move on from base set Charizard, even though it is undeniably awesome. Growlithe, Arcanine, Magmar, these are all pretty much just regular base set stuff. That's a Rocket Ponyta. There you go, Blaine's Vulpix, that's a Japanese one there. Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to see if I could understand any of the attacks. Not really sure I can, actually, but you'll notice that the Japanese layout for their weakness and resistance thing is actually quite different to the English cards. And they say HP and then the number rather than, as in HP 50 rather than 50 HP. They also list the level right next to the HP symbol as opposed to on the right in the Pokédex entry like the Western cards do. Does that one even have a Pokédex entry? I don't think it does, actually. Anyway, over here is a Holo Jungle Flareon. That's kind of cool. I forgot when I got this one, but it's quite a nice card. And, okay, so that's... Oh, and a couple of other flyers. Oh, yeah, here's a Rocket Dark Flareon. And for some weird reason, a couple of Makagos. This, I believe, is a... This Makago is quite a late one. And this is a Dark Makago from... Oh, that's from Neo Destiny, isn't it? So these two are much later. Anyway, for some reason Psychic... Oh, Psychic must be next, because back in the day, after Charizard, I believe Mewtwo and Gengar were probably my two main favourites after Charizard. So, anyway, here, of course... Sparkly. This here is Ancient Mew. Yeah, most people know about this one. This card was really kind of, yeah, everyone just considered this so awesome just because it was written in all, like, hieroglyphics and stuff. Yeah, I really recently found out that it actually does have playable text on it. Like, as in, if you can translate this, it actually does kind of make sense, and it actually does have a few attacks it can use. But it was banned in pretty much all tournaments simply on virtue of no one being able to understand it. But anyway, this was a promo card that you got for seeing the second movie, so I managed to get this one. I believe there were also Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno promo cards, which I didn't manage to get, so yeah. Now this Mew here, this says it's a promo, but I really have no idea what promo this was from, so I have no idea where I got this. And yeah, I can't remember where I got this one, so if anyone can help me just figure out where I got this Mew, I really have no idea. And it's also interesting because it has this attack here, Devolution Beam. It can actually forcibly de-evolve Pokemon, which is interesting. And here's a Holo Mewtwo. Pretty basic stuff, really, but Mewtwo's a cool Pokemon anyway. This is before, you know, they started making legendaries all ridiculous, you know, the EX cards, which, yeah. Anyway, over here is, base set Ghastly. Yeah, I recently found out that base set Ghastly is considered possibly one of the worst cards of all time, in terms of, just plain, like, the moves it has. No way of damaging, and, but the one thing that I do find is interesting is, look there, Destiny Bond. Yeah, Destiny Bond existed in the card game long before it did in the games. In fact, quite a lot of moves from the Pokemon games actually originated in the card game, Destiny Bond being one of them. You'll actually see a few others as I flip through the folder. So yeah, Destiny Bond pretty much works like it does in the games, apart from that discard Psychic Energy thing. So basically, if Ghastly gets knocked out, the other Pokemon is knocked out as well. So, interesting that quite a few attacks actually started off as card game moves and then became actual proper game moves later on. Here is Haunter that's still... You know what? I have a bit of a creepy story with this Haunter. This Haunter card used to terrify me as a kid. Not exactly for the right reasons. See that attack there, Dream Eater? Yeah. Now, back when I was a kid... The other people in my classes, you know, we were all really young and stuff. Now, there was this one kid who kept going on and on about Dream Eater, and now that I think about it, looking back, this guy must have had a really sick mind. He told me that Dream Eater worked by, and I'm not making this up, cutting open the other Pokemon's head and eating their brains. Yeah. I spent ages thinking that's what Dream Eater did. I should have been clued in by the name that that's not what it did, but still, that was pretty horrifying. Yeah, the less said about that, the better. Anyway, here is, Fossil Gengar, which I believe was actually the only Gengar, first available, so originally that thing didn't even evolve, so it took a while to actually get a Gengar, but yeah, there's Gengar, Fossil Slowpoke that I always found really weird with its art. Jinx, Japanese Drowsy, which still has the weirdest Japanese name ever, Suripu. It's just sleep, which I think makes no sense. Anyway, well, makes too much sense, that's the problem. Anyway, Abra from Rocket, Kadabra from base set, and now suddenly we've gone to Lugia. Yeah, I never really had a base set Alakazam, or that Dark Alakazam from Team Rocket, actually. Anyway, this is not a particularly spectacular looking Lugia, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Another Drowsy. Yeah, it has a weird power which can either sleep them while you're still on the bench or backfire on you. Sort of somewhat Inca looking Natu here. Somehow there's a Holo Unknown. I don't know why what possessed them to make one of the Unknowns a Holo. I guess A being the first letter, then... Anyway, there's an Unknown, and a couple other Unknowns, A, E, that's F, and K, A, F, K. Doesn't really make anything. Here it is, here's that Vileplume from the front. This is, Erica's Vileplume, a Japanese one. Now, there's a bit of an interesting story behind this card. I actually got this one in a trade, and the card I traded for it was the base set Ninetales that I got in the Brushfire theme deck. The reason I was so eager to trade the base set Ninetales was because I really hoped that you get a Charizard in that theme deck. Well, obviously, they wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be so kind as to give you one. So I got this Ninetales as the holo in the deck, and I'm like, come on, like, why are you not Charizard? So I really was not sorry to trade that, and there were some points where I regretted it, but you know what? I actually really think, looking back, I do not regret this at all. I really like this Japanese Erica's Vileplume, actually, and I think it's a pretty cool looking card, so I'm kind of glad I got that. Victory Bell. Did this one come in holo as well? It might have, I'm not sure. This Grimer. Here is the infamous Grimer. I don't think, despite all my Japanese cards, I did not get the Japanese version of this card, which is interesting because this is one of the few cards that was actually censored in the English version. I probably don't want to go into exactly what was censored about it here. You can find out more info about it if you look up this card specifically, or just look up censored Pokemon cards. But back at the time, I had no idea this was a censored card. In fact, the funniest thing I found about this card was this attack here. Poison Gas. For some reason, they mistranslated and made it sleep in English rather than poison. Yes, the Japanese version of the card did correctly say that that attack does cause poison, not sleep. I really don't know how the translators derped up that one. Anyway, Muck. This is kind of interesting. Its Pokemon power actually evokes the new Garbota's Garbotoxin power, except the only difference is that Garbotoxin only works when you've got an item, a held item equipped, whereas this Muck's power works all the time. So yeah, basically while it's on, all other powers are shut off, which is actually a lot like the Garbota, and in fact, powers like this used to be really good back in the day, so anyway. This Bulbasaur I always thought was kind of funny because it looked like it was firing some kind of cannon out of its back. Ivysaur. Now, I did not get a Venusaur, which is kind of weird because, as you'll see later, I did have the other third form of the starter trio, so never got Venusaur, though. Annoying. Coughing, and here we go. Now, this Holo Weezing is the second Holo I ever got. I believe I got this out of a random pack of Japanese rocket boosters, so, yeah, this is the second Holo I ever got, this Weezing, so it still holds a pretty special place in my heart. Weird. kind of plasticine Caterpie there. Over here we have Weedle, Kakuna. This Kakuna always I found a bit weird in the fact that it had stiffen rather than hard. Like, why wouldn't you just say harden? Why not just say harden? I was always pedantic about errors with the games. Anyway, this Beedrill, which is alright. Ekans, Rocket Ekans, and surprisingly Fossil Arbok. This one's pretty... Paris... Venonat. Oh, I believe I have seen a first edition of this Venonat before. Execute. Yeah, I definitely saw a first edition of this. This Executor I always found to be a funny picture, and it looks like it's all, like, relaxing under some sunset. And, of course, unfortunately, back then, I didn't realize just how evil this attack was. Big Punsplosion. Yeah, the less said about that, the better. Metapod, I think my sister actually did have a Butterfree. She always loved Butterfree. I don't think I did. Pincus. And I'm switching over to my phone camera now because the last one kind of, ran out of battery. I'm actually getting a much clearer picture on this one, though, so it's kind of weird. Anyway, this Nidoran female I think is kind of weird in that its call for family attack only calls for Nidoran male or female. So what, the higher forms just aren't considered family or something? Then again, it's kind of funny because Nidorino and Nidoqueen can't breed, so when you think about it, those two forms can't be this thing's family. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way. Of course, this card was made before that those things were unable to breed, so still. Nidorino. Giovanni's Nidorino. Interesting. That Bellsprout. Everyone had that one. Zubat. This Tangler's picture is kind of interesting. It's kind of hard to tell which of the vines there are part of Tangler and which are just part of the background. Anyway, next page. There should be all the grass types in there. Oh no, wow, there's a whole other page of grass types. Wow, how wrong I was. Anyway, Sunkern, Oddish, Gloom, Erica's Vileplume, but not regular Vileplume. Oh, Koga's Weedle. Interesting. And Hollow Koga's Beedrill. Now, this one has an attack that I think is really, really stupid and just really not worth using at all. This thingy here, Hyper Needle. It does 70 damage for 3 energies, but it says here, flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. So you've got an outright 50% chance of actually not doing anything. Either way, you can't use this attack again as long as Koga's Beedrill remains in play. So it's one use only, and even then, it only has a 50% chance of working. Apparently, even switching this thing out won't reset the attack. That is terrible. That's really terrible. Like, why would you do that? You got a 50% chance of totally blowing it, and then, even then, you still can't use that move ever again unless you somehow return it to your... just bad. Pineco... Getting a bit of glare there. Light Venomoth. Oh yeah, the light Pokemon. They were only around really in one expansion, and apparently weren't considered very popular, seeing as they never came back. Golbat. That has a lot of words in its text. Oh, right, that attack basically just says you poison them and then you drain health as well. Oh, that's an interesting Parasect. Allergic Pollen. Was this the one that was actually pretty useful? Basically, cards in a player's discard pile are not affected by any attacks or... yeah, I think this one was used with a very famous deck combo back in the day. I wasn't really into that stuff back then, but I've researched a bit now, and yeah, I have a feeling this thing was. In fact, nowadays, this would actually be really useful for countering that Execute Weavile's deck combo, the one where the Executes keep regenerating out of the discard pile and Weavile keeps throwing them back at the enemy. Anyway, okay, now on to the water types. Got a few water types here. Squirtle. Then again, these things weren't really so important to me back when I was a kid because I always used to get into arguments with the people who were more Squirtle fans. I used to... it was always Squirtle fans versus Charizard fans. I always used to get into arguments with them. Anyway, Squirtle, Wartortle, and Blastoise Holo, which apparently is actually quite highly sought after now. And this one is the one with the Rain Dance power, which, yeah, that really defined the metagame. And in fact, that thing, I'm pretty sure that Blastoises now have pretty much the exact same power, and it's still just as ridiculously broken as it used to be, so, yeah. Seal. I don't know why, but I kind of like the art on this Dugong. I don't know, it just looks pretty cool. Now this Magikarp, now here's something interesting. Look at that second attack. Flail. Yep, this was also before Flail was officially a game move. So, yeah, Magikarp actually got Flail in the card games before... Yeah, before it did in the games. So, yeah, this is where Flail actually originated, believe it or not. And Holo Gyarados. Yeah, this thing's pretty cool. But 4 energy for only 40 damage is kind of... And you do more damage with Dragon Rage. And I find it kind of ironic that Dragon Rage does 50 damage when in the games it only does a maximum of... Well, only does exactly 40. That's kind of weird. Anyway, let's see if I can get this thing to sparkle a little bit. Hey. Yeah, anyway, that's a pretty cool card. Goldeen, Seeking. Now, yeah, here's something interesting. Waterfall, I never realized until quite a while later, but Waterfall did exist as a move in the original Generation 1 games before it became an HM in Gold and Silver. It was exclusive to Goldeen and Seeking, though. They learned it by level up. It was just another random level up move. Kind of weird how they later take that and make it an HM. Anyway, so, there's some waters. Here's some more waters. Okay, there's a Psyduck there. Now, this Golduck, I will say, this Golduck has some of my favourite artwork of any card in the entire card game. Seriously, this artwork is just awesome. When I first saw other kids with this Golduck, I was like, I want this so badly, and eventually I finally got it. So I love this artwork on this Golduck. It's just so awesome. Shame Golduck can't really shoot laser beams. Well, actually, well, you can, but you have to use Hyper Beam. Yeah, Hyper Beam. No, wouldn't. Oh, Japanese Poliwag. Hi, Japanese Poliwag. And Horsea. That's a fossil Horsea. That is a fossil Seadra as well. Okay. So those ones, and I find it really annoying that agility actually does damage in the card games. In the anime, it's actually portrayed like that too, which I find really annoying. It's almost considered synonymous with quick attack in the anime, which is just stupid. Anyway, Tentacool, which has a hilariously named power. Basically, it can go back to your hand, but you lose all cards attached to it. That's kind of annoying. It's actually pretty pathetic anyway, so I don't see why you want to save this card anyway. Tentacruel, on the other hand, is still kind of pathetic, actually. Only 60 HP for a second stage, only does a maximum of 10 damage. That's, not that good, but still it has alright artwork. Japanese Swinub, don't know where that came from. Shelter, Hide in Shell. Again, why didn't they just put Withdraw there? And here, this is kind of sad, actually. See, look, Totodile, Croconaw, and I had a space in my binder right here. That's not... Shelgon's not actually there. This is an empty space. An empty space reserved for the Feraligatr that I never got. Yeah, that's actually pretty sad. But here's Staryu and Starmie. And a Mantine. Oh, this is a Neogenesis Horsea, I think. And a Neogenesis Seadra. And Holo Kingdra, but this wasn't that impressive. I got this whole evolution line out of a theme deck, so yeah. This one came from a theme deck, basically. Still pretty cool. Anyway. So, next set over. Krabby. Oh, sort of weird clay Kabuto or something. I don't know. And for some weird reason, I have a holo Japanese Azumarill. I don't know how I got that. I don't know where that came from, actually. But anyway, it's another holo. Poliwag from... I've got no idea where that Poliwag is from. Poliwhirl, which actually I think looks kind of cool, artwork-wise. Wooper... Misty's... No, that's Sabrina's Psyduck and Misty's Psyduck. Two different gym leader Psyducks, both of them requiring psychic energy, so, yeah. You'd think Sabrina would be the one who'd require the psychic energy, and Misty would require water, but not the case. Oh, random ESP. Flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is now confused. Okay, flip a coin. If tails, yeah, this attack fails and you're confused. I guess this Psyduck is, well, sorry, whoops. Misty Psyduck's attack is very strange, but I remember reading this one a lot. Flip 3 coins. If exactly 1 is heads, draw a card. If 2 are heads, this attack does 20 damage. If all 3 are heads, choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks. Misty Psyduck copies that attack except for its energy costs. This is interesting because no matter what flip you get, all of these benefit you in some way. So, I guess this one's a lot better, actually. I actually do kind of like this, because it's a luck mechanic, but all 3 situations actually benefit you. So, or at least I guess they all actually benefit you in some way. The 3 heads one is probably the best, though. That could lead to some pretty hilarious situations. This was before the errata came out forbidding illegal evolutions, which means you could actually use this to copy, say, the Magikarp attack that lets you evolve into Gyarados. Now, nowhere is it specified that Psyduck can't evolve into Gyarados, so if you're copying the attack exactly as written, it says you search your deck for a Gyarados and evolve Psyduck into it. That could be pretty hilarious. They eventually errated that out, though. Damn it. Misty Seal. There's a Remoraid. Is this Shelgon actually in here now? Alright, so now we jump to the Ruby Sapphire era cards. These were E-cards, so they had E-reader bits on them, which is interesting. Okay, Trico, Breloom, and a reverse holo Sceptile. I actually kind of like the reverse holos from this era. They were actually pretty nice. Wait a second, does that Solar Beam require 5 energy just for 70 damage? I guess that's kind of appropriate for an attack that in the games requires a turn to charge up, but still, wow, that's pretty ridiculous. Here we go. Here's a Magmar EX. Now, this is one of the very first Pokemon EX cards. The ones that would eventually go on to become notoriously, horrendously broken. Like they are now. Yeah, you see, back then the EXs were pretty pathetic, really. They still had the gimmick of giving up 2 prize cards, but they really weren't worth it at all. But at least they were all sparkly. I got this one out of a random booster pack. This was probably the only Ruby Sapphire era EX I ever got. Though I did, I believe, get a Japanese Charizard EX from the Fire Red Leaf Green series. It actually came in a Japanese theme deck I got somehow, that I've heard sells for a lot of money now. Unfortunately, I cannot find that one. I don't know where it went. Curlier and another reverse holo, this time Omastar. So, my fightings. Nothing much really interesting here, I'll be honest with you. Sandshrew, Japanese Diglett, or Digda, Dugtrio, which I always found interesting given that it does damage to your own bench, Japanese Machop, Japanese Machoke, and English, of course, first edition Machamp. Yeah, first edition. Unfortunately, that's not really too special, given that all Machamps that you got in the 2-player starter set were always first edition. So, like, yeah, apparently the non-first edition version of this card is actually rarer than the first edition version. So, kind of weird. Speaking of Machamps, here's another one. Here is a Dark Machamp from the Team Rocket set, which can apparently shuffle the opponent's Pokemon into their deck. Unfortunately, it says there specifically that it does nothing if your opponent has no bench Pokemon. So this means you can't use that attack to win, which is really, really annoying. Cubone and the Marowak, which apparently got featured on the top 20 worst cards of all time video for some reason. I don't think it's that terrible, but anyway. Rhyhorn. I always thought this Rhydon looked really a bit strange in terms of its artwork. Don't you think it looks a bit too dark? Like, I just think it looks a bit too dark. Like, that's too dark of a grey, I think. I don't know, I just always found something off about that Rhydon. Onyx, pretty basic, that one. And, this Hitmonchan. This shiny Hitmonchan was actually quite commonly used back in the day. It was actually quite common, so I'm glad I still have that thing. Kabuto, Kabuto, alright. Brock's Mankey, another Japanese one. Here's a much later Omanite. And a much later Omastar. And for some reason, I now have 2 pages of, nothing. I don't know how they got there. But anyway. And here, completing my fossils, is an Aerodactyl here. I don't think that prehistoric memory ability actually does anything, though, considering that none of its it's only pre-evolution is technically a fossil, and I don't think they have attacks anyway, so I don't know why it even has that, so... Blaine's Rhyhorn. For some weird reason, Blaine has a Rhyhorn. I don't know why Blaine has a Rhyhorn. Yeah, it's weird. This is quite an amusing-looking Primeape. Pretty... I will admit this Diglett has pretty hilarious artwork, but is that thing overturning an entire building? Is that the size of a building or something? That's a very weird Diglett. Another Tyrogue with strange artwork that had the really irritating old baby rule, which apparently everyone just despised that. You gotta flip just added so much luck to the game. Weird Geodude, and that Graveler I always thought looked really weird. I always thought that thing looked more like some kind of monument than a Pokemon. I don't know. That Lantern is actually not part of this page, it's part of the next page. Here we go. See this Zapdos Holo right here? This Zapdos Holo. Now, this thing has a special place in my heart. This is not only the first Holo I ever got, but it's the first Pokemon card I ever owned, period. My introduction to the card game was, I believe it was an old Japanese intro set. Now, I believe, to me it looked like a theme deck at the time. It did come with the rules and all, which I couldn't read because they were all in Japanese. But I believe, looking up this set later on, it turns out that it actually came with an assortment of random cards. I believe it was 1 random holo, 1 random normal rare card, and I think maybe 5 random uncommons and 20 random commons. I think that's it. It just had a bunch of random cards in it, really. That's what the Japanese got as like their intro pack, but my random holo turned out to be that Zapdos, and I can actually read a lot of it now, surprisingly enough. So, Thunder. Yeah, Zapdos' Japanese name is just simply Thunder. A lot of the Japanese names in the first generation were really unimaginative. Articuno and Moltres were called Fire and Freezer. What's even weirder is that Zapdos' Japanese name, Thunder, is only 1 syllable off Jolteon's Japanese name, Thunders. Yeah, they just added an S for Jolteon. I don't even... it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so that first attack there says Kaminari, which I believe is Thunder. And the second is Juman Boruto, which... Man is 10,000, so Juman would be 10 times 10,000, which is 100,000 volts. And that is the Japanese name of the attack that's known in English as just Thunderbolt. So, has a much more dramatic sounding Japanese name, actually. And weirdly enough, it's stronger than Thunder. I don't know why, here. That's a Rocket Magnemite, and Dark Okay, accidentally pressed the wrong button there. Dark Magneton, or Dark Magneton. I wonder who that silhouette there belongs to. Maybe Giovanni? I don't know. That's a riddle for the ages, that is. This Elekid. I don't know why, but I did kind of like this Elekid. Still has a very, very annoying, Yeah, this thing was always really annoying, and it could attack you from the bench, but it had a 50% chance of ending its own turn. Electabuzz... Japanese Flaffy, not Mareep, sorry. Pikachu... sorry, I don't like Pikachu very much, so I'll just move along. Chinchou and Lantern. I kind of like this Lantern's gimmick, in that energy attached to it could be treated as both, No, that's not it. Yeah, water energies actually powered it up rather than just electric energies, so I thought that was actually pretty cool. Yeah, let's try... Oh, here we go. Here's a regular Voltorb, and this thing is Lieutenant Surge's Electrode. I got this in a random trade with someone quite
a while ago, like very early in my collecting days, and this, I always really liked the artwork on that thing. It looks pretty sinister, actually, but I always liked it. Anyway, and over here are my normals. Oh, wait a minute. That's the Japanese back of a Japanese card. I always thought it looked much cooler than the English card backs. Anyway, there's a Doduo and Dodrio. Back in the day, I always used to like these two because I thought they were emus. Then I found out they weren't. And I thought, because first I thought, hey, there's an Australian Pokemon. No, actually there isn't. At least there was Kangaskhan, despite it not really looking much like a kangaroo at all. Anyway, Rattata. Definitely not in the top percentage of Rattata. This Raticate, on the other hand, was a really quite famous card among kids at the time, simply because it was the only card that had an attack that just said question mark. Yeah, not a times or a plus or even a minus. It's a question mark. I don't think any other card has ever had that listed as its damage. So this is quite an interesting card. What it actually does is, Super Fang works just like it does in the game. It does damage equal to half their remaining HP. Yeah, it was still pretty cool there. Dratini. That, I believe, is a Dark Dragonair. A Japanese one, though. Artwork is pretty cool, though. Shinkan no Hikari. I believe that is Light of Evolution. Pretty sure. And there's a Meowth, a Jungle Meowth, and a Rocket Dark Persian. Yeah, I just cared about matching the evolutions to their evolved forms and stuff, rather than actually getting them from the same set. Interesting. And wait a minute, was that Fascinate thing? No, it wasn't. Whoops, sorry. Part of me thought that was a precursor to Attract or Captivate. It's not. Brock's Lickitung. Why would Brock have a Lickitung? Seriously, why? This was before it had to learn Rollout to evolve. Why would Brock have a Lickitung? Oh wait, there's a few more things over here. That Spearow, I always thought it's... Not only did its art look a bit off, but there's a real animal in that artwork. Back in the early days, they used real animals quite a lot, so that one's just plain weird. Taurus, this one is pretty cool. No. Farfetch'd. Oh, this is another one of those you can't use this attack again attacks. Leak Slap. Yeah, it's got a 50% chance of failing outright, and either way, you can't use the attack again. Then again, this makes more sense for something like Farfetch'd to have it, given that Farfetch'd is a gigantic fail and always will be that way. Oh, how ironic that I have a Japanese Porygon. Given that Porygon will forever remain exclusive to Japan in the anime. So sad, and it wasn't even Porygon's fault. The real culprit was Pikachu and kind of Team Rocket. Porygon was completely innocent. Where's Phoenix Wright when you need him? Anyway, Jigglypuff... I found the artwork on this one kind of interesting. Eevee. Again, real animals, real butterflies. Still kind of strange about this, about the real animals and the original Pokemon stuff. Pidgey. Japanese Pidgeotto. And Japanese Stantler. And there's a Teddiursa here, which I have to I am obliged to mention that my sister is she was absolutely obsessed with Teddiursas. I'm pretty sure she still is now. Lieutenant Surge's Rattata and Lieutenant... Hey, I actually got a complete line of the same owner and the same set, so that's pretty cool. Lieutenant Surge's Rattata and Lieutenant Surge's Raticate. Still no idea why he'd have a Rattata or a Raticate, but still. Fable and Chansey. Yeah, that Egg Toss. Bit of a gamble. That's only got a 1/4 chance of working. I don't want to risk that. Anyway, there are a bunch of cards on the other side here. Now this, I believe this is something like Lieutenant Surge's strategy or Lieutenant Surge's plan. Not sure. I really forget what this one is, but this isn't the card that got censored. No, but still, he's holding a Master Ball. Where would he have got that? Anyway. Yeah, here we go, Gust of Wind. This actually is still perfectly playable nowadays, because it's got the same effect as Pokemon Catcher, so you're still allowed to use this, even though it's long since been rotated out. Super energy removal. Now, the funny thing was, back when I was just a kid, I traded a lot of these away because I had no idea how good they were. I used to think that these were only good for getting rid of the energy of your own Pokemon. Either that, or I thought that discarding energy from your opponent's Pokemon was not a useful effect. Boy, was I wrong. Of course, back in the day I also thought that lowering your opponent's stats in the games, or raising your own stats, was also useless, so, yeah. Plus power. Interesting thing about plus power. Plus power, you might be thinking, why is it plus power and not X attack? Well, plus power is the Japanese name of X attack, and for some weird reason the card used its Japanese name, probably because it actually has the name in English right there. Defender was also like that. That's X-Defend in English, but anyway. Speaking of cards that use their Japanese name, this here is Poké Flute, but it was always called in the card game by its Japanese name, Pokemon Flute. Not really much of a difference. I suspect the English name in the games was only due to character limitations. Oran Berry, that's a much later card. Less interesting. Revive. I always thought it was weird that Revive was depicted as a bunch of stars, but anyway. And Pokeball. The early Pokeball artwork looks kind of strange, actually, compared to later ones. Still. More trainer cards. Oh yeah, here's Defender. Yeah, you can see the English text there. Yeah, basically X-Defend. Now, the thing I always used to hate about Defender in the card game is the fact that the moves like Self-Destruct and Explosion, moves that would KO yourself normally, were done in the card game by saying that the Pokemon does an amount of damage to itself equal to its remaining hit points exactly. This meant that you could use the Defender card to reduce the amount of damage you do to yourself and not knock yourself out with Self-Destruct or Explosion. That really pissed me off back in the day. It was a serious pet peeve of mine. Even when I was just a kid, I just thought, I did not like that. Something just bugged me about the fact that you could survive your own self-destruct or explosion. I just hated that, so I'm glad they changed it. Nowadays, I think they just say that this Pokemon knocks itself out. Old Bill. Yeah, kind of broken. They changed him to a supporter and he just wasn't anywhere near as good. Super Potion? I always used to think it was annoying you had to discard energy cards to use it, but I guess it would be pretty broken otherwise. And speaking of broken, here's Computer Search! Yep, back there, not only was this card not an ace spec, meaning that you could have 4 of them in your deck at once, but it was a regular trainer card, meaning you could play as many of them as you wanted during your turn. This thing! Yeah, they didn't even realise just how broken this was back then, but yikes, this was an incredibly broken card in hindsight. So broken, they had to re-release it as an ace spec card. Now, you're only allowed to have 1 of it in your deck, and it looks very bright and shiny. Item Finder. You know what? I have a feeling this is also an ace spec now. Let me just check its effect for a second. I have a feeling this is also an ace spec now. Pokedex. The good old Pokedex before they started looking like iPhones. Professor Oak. Yeah, this was another one of those cards that were horribly broken back in the day. This was before supporters existed, so you could play as many of these as you wanted during the same turn. Ouch. Yeah, you could keep refreshing your hand almost indefinitely with this. Well, or at least 4 times in one turn, but still. Imposter Professor Oak. This one I don't think was quite as good, but it introduced a character who only exists in the card game so far, except they got briefly alluded to in the anime, when James impersonated Professor Oak for 1 episode. Professor Elm, this card is interesting. I think this was the precursor to supporters as we know them today. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 7 cards. You can't play any more trainer cards this turn. So basically, yeah, this was the precursor to supporters. Eventually they realized, hey, why don't we just make all broken cards like this have a similar effect? And so supporters were born. Mysterious Fossil. Yep, this was the card that was never used as it was intended to. It was supposed to be used to evolve into a Pokemon that was actually usable. Instead, people would use it as just a wall to just block off their active spot while they powered up something from the bench. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. There is Pokemon Center, Japanese Pokemon Center. Pokemon Center. This lets you fully recover all your Pokemon, provided that you discard every single energy you have in play. Is it worth it? Well, it depends on the situation. This thing here is Time Capsule, I believe. Yeah, that's from Gold and Silver. This is a Scoop Up, I think, but it's called a different name in Japanese. Imposter Hook's Revenge. I don't know why, but I found the name of this card kind of hilarious. So yeah, this lets you force your opponent's hand size to go down, kind of like N now, except N helps you as well. Maintenance. Not sure if that's actually really good. Switch. This is always a useful card, actually. Another energy removal, and an energy retrieval. Trade one of the other cards in your hand. Alright, I guess the wording of that is a bit confusing. They changed that to discard one of the cards in your hand for up to 2 energy cards from your discard pile. And I'm pretty sure there's nothing else. Oh, well, actually, there's a bit more. Pokemon Breeder, which Rare Candy works as now, so you can still use this, you just have to say, this is a Rare Candy. Super Rod, I always used to love how Super Rod was depicted here. Now, what Pokemon is that? It doesn't actually look like any Pokemon that was available back then. Either it's a really, really big Magikarp, or it's a Relicanth, and Relicanth didn't exist then. That's weird. Moo Moo Milk. Yes, Moo Moo Milk, this card's image got changed for the English version, because it got kind of censored. Admittedly, the Japanese image for this card is just plain weird and kind of disturbing, so anyway. Full Heal. Full Heal looks very different to what it looks like now. I always found the image of this card pretty funny. Jigglypuff. Yep. Jigglypuff just got owned. And Gambler. Yep. Guess that card would be censored to Gamer now. I'm a rambling gaming dude. That doesn't even rhyme anymore. Sleep. Pretty self-explanatory, that. This is one of the few stadium cards I actually ever had. Viridian City Gym. Okay, so you heal if a Pokemon with Giovanni is like, hey, you just spoiled who the gym leader of that gym is. Ha ha ha, sorry. Oh, wait, and this other one. Energy State. What's this from? Oh, wow, that's from quite recent, isn't it? Oh, no, that's actually from Golden State. No, that's back. That's from the Neo era, actually. Oh, okay, both players get to regenerate energy. That's interesting. Speaking of energy, here are my energies. Don't mind that Star Wars card down there. So yeah, I did have one double colorless energy. I never had a rainbow energy, though, which is kind of sad. Full heal energy and potion energy. These are the only special energies I ever had, actually. And just energies. You used to get these in basic packs, not to mention theme decks, so I have way too many of these. Good thing they're kind of still legal now. So that's pretty much all my cards, except for a bunch of loose stuff that I might just want to show off anyway. Here's an interesting looking, here's an interesting looking Mewtwo. Now here is something interesting. This is a computer search. However, this is actually a fake. You probably can't tell, but this actually has less quality cardboard, and its text is a little bit less quality too. But here's the main reason you can tell this is a fake. Now, I actually had a whole lot of fake Pokemon cards back in the day, simply because my grandparents would annoyingly often buy packs for me, but they turned out to be packs of fakes. Unfortunately, they couldn't really tell the difference back then, and there are a lot of fakes going around. Now, the reason you can tell this is a fake is 2 reasons. One, look down here at the bottom. Notice something that's missing? See? No copyright credits. No copyright credits. There's also no rarity symbol here, either. Also, flip it over, and notice something here. There's no trademark at the end of Pokemon. This was the way I used to tell fake cards from real ones back when I was a kid. If there's no trademark, it's a fake. So anyway, that's a fake card. Go away, fake card. Anyway, I've got a bunch of stuff here that's kind of some old stuff that was sort of loose and probably not really preserved very well. Actually, I have a Hollow Victory Bell here. It's really in bad condition, though. Terrible, terrible, terrible condition. But I knew this thing came in hollow. Terrible. Oh, wow, there's a hollow scythe. Oh, wow. I really wish I preserved this better. These cards would have been worth a lot today if I preserved these ones better. Anyway. But the one thing I want to show here is that it seems like there's a whole big thing of cards here that, went through the washing machine. Yeah, while Game Boy games were good enough to survive that, I don't think Pokemon cards were. Sadly, it means this Holo Gyarados. Look at this. This is a Holo Gyarados. This thing would have been so awesome now if I'd actually preserved this right. Good thing I actually already had a Holo Gyarados, but still, I would have liked to spare. Look at this here. You probably can't tell it from here, but, oh yeah, look at the edges, so frayed. And look at the back of this. No way I would make any money on the resale market for this now. Just look how horribly this has been mangled. Oh, I feel so sorry for this. It's a Holo Gyarados. This would have been so awesome if I'd... Ugh, damn it. What can you do? And I don't think there's really much else I can show. So, that is my old Pokemon card collection from when I was a kid. Hope you enjoyed this video. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.